Hi there, this is Josh from Literary Gladiators, and today I'm here to talk about my 5 favorite books that I read in 2022. This was not the best reading year for me, to be honest. It was a very rough year. A lot went on as far as things in my personal life were concerned, but the one of the positive things that took place is that the restructure went very well. And my team of contributors did an outstanding job. I got a lot of great videos up toward the beginning of the year, but it started to decrease as the year went on. But next year I want to change that, and I want to get up as many videos as possible. But more importantly, many videos of good quality as possible. We've got a great team of contributors, a lot of returning contributors, and a lot of good new contributors. So there's a lot to look forward to. And I'm looking forward to turning around my reading year. But the 5 books that are on this list are of good quality. And I'm going to count them down from 5 to 1 for you. And coming in at number 5 is A Swim in a Pond in the Rain by George Saunders. And I read this for the BookTube Prize. I did judge the octafinals for the BookTube Prize. I wanted to do the entire... I wanted to do all 4 rounds, but because of things that were going on, I had to back out of the other 3 rounds. But I judged Nonfiction Group C for the octafinals, and I really liked the structure of this book. This is something that I have been waiting for. I've wanted to read a book that was a masterclass of some sense as far as going over works of literature are concerned. And in this case, George Saunders, whose writing I find very admirable. The Semplica Girl Diaries was a brilliant short story, one of the best of all time. In this book, he goes over Russian short stories. He presents a short story for you to read, and he treats it like you would be in a college class where there's different strategies and approaches, and then he provides you with analysis and an approach like it's something that you may have not thought about, and it really enlightens you some. I ranked it second on my ballot, and I really hope that there's more books like this that come out, because I think that this kind of structure is something that a lot of readers can benefit from, especially when it comes to either writers or just college instructors, because a lot of your renowned college instructors are known for writing general works of nonfiction, but you don't often see something like this, and I think that it really paid off. It was rich, that for sure, but it was worth it. 4th best book that I read this year, Herbert Hoover Life by Glenn Jeansone. I did an individual review on this book, and I'm really happy that I got to this. I read Herbert Hoover in the White House by Charles Rapley back in 2019, and I personally thought that this book was better. But this book is a biography, and its main approach is redeeming Hoover's legacy, because Hoover's often viewed as being the president that oversaw the beginning of the Great Depression and did nothing about it, and that Hoover was a useless president, when in actuality that would be jumping to a foregone conclusion, when in actuality Hoover was he had a very remarkable resume. He was an engineer, he was a humanitarian, he was the one that established the Commerce Department in the presidential cabinet. He oversaw a lot of remarkable things that took place during the 1920s. He oversaw the Commission relief in Belgium during World War I. He worked as part of the Food Administration during Woodrow Wilson's administration. So he had experience with both ends of the political spectrum. They had wanted him to run for president in 1920, but he wasn't ready at that time. It was in 1928 that he finally hopped in. But he also forecasted that if people invested recklessly and on unstable ground, it was going to result in a crash in the stock market, which it ended up doing. But it all fell on him because he was the president at the time. And his approach didn't work the way that ultimately and arguably worked under Franklin D. Roosevelt. And by that I mean it depends on who you ask and in what way, shape, and form. While this takes a more positive approach on the Hoover administration, it was still very informative, and it was honest about Hoover as a president, as a person. It was not afraid to cover any faults of his. But one of the highlight quotes that I made mention to in my video review, on my Goodreads review, was a quote from page 291 that states, and I quote, "Hoover's good deeds and sharp mind, his generosity and his sincerity outweigh these faults," as in his lacking political skills and his inability to resolve things as far as the Great Depression are concerned. And his mistakes constituted errors in judgment, not mortal sins. He was both human and humane, and if he does not deserve a spot on Mount Rushmore, he does not deserve to be pillared as the scapegoat of the Great Depression either. History's more complicated than that. I think that this was a very fulfilling biography that provided me with a great sense of Hoover's upbringing, as well as filling any gaps pertaining to his resume as far as public service is concerned. Number 3 on my list is one that really propelled itself to the top because I have a great sense of sentimental value to this, and it has always been a very valued part of my book collection. And that is James McNair's Cheese Cookbook, that James McNair wrote, and the photography is by Patricia Brabant. And this sticker here denotes that it was a special value item from Atlantic Books for $4.98, and I got it back in 2003. at the Atlantic Books in Manahawkin, New Jersey. The entire Atlantic Books chain closed down in 2012. And they had locations across the Jersey Shore. But this is my very first book that I acquired in my collection that has to do with cheese. I had wanted a book about cheese, and while we were book shopping, my mother happened to find this, and this really helped establish my knowledge on the subject. I really learned a lot about cheese through this book. You have a great balance of information, such as the whether cheese is soft, semi-soft, firm, hard, the subcategories. McNair does a great job talking about preparation, right to the point, but very fulfilling nevertheless. He's very anecdotal with his experience of becoming an enthusiast for cheese, and he also provides anecdotes in the with many of the recipes in this book as well, be it personal connections or personal tips and approaches to each recipe. And the photographs are just amazing. This is the polenta with Italian fonduta. But I cooked 6 recipes thus far, and I would like to cook more. And the 6 recipes that I cooked were the gorgonzola wafers, the triple cream shortbread, tomato garlic spread, Parmesan soup, pizza with 4 cheese, and pasta with 4 cheese. I did the Italian version, though there's also the American version in this book, too. But you're definitely going to be engaged when you read this, and I think this is a great bridge and a great pipeline to expand your horizons and become far more enthusiastic on the topic of cheese. Number 2 on my list is All In, an autobiography by Billie Jean King. I read this for the BookTube Prize, Octafinals Nonfiction Group C, and I ranked it as my favorite book out of the 6 books that I read in my category. And this covers everything you would want to know about Billie Jean King, from her upbringing to getting into tennis, her professional tennis career, her activism, and anything else that she has experienced that she wanted to share. I think she's very honest and also very clear as far as her activism is concerned. She asserts that with her feminism, equal is equal, and wants to be egalitarian rather than a separatist, which I think she's very fair, and I think that she is very straightforward as far as what she feels is the right way of doing things is concerned, and the right way of living one's life and hoping that others are able to do the same. But she's very authentic, she's very detailed, very engaging, and she provides you with everything you want to know, be it the play-by-play or the color commentary with regard to her tennis career is concerned. And she even has statistical information about her tennis matches in the back of the book. which cover each of the tournaments that she took part. It's part of the appendix, and something of this nature. But I was very impressed, and I think that if you are an enthusiast for Billie Jean King, or even an enthusiast for tennis, I think that this is a book that's worth owning. And my number one book of 2022 is Clarence Thomas, a biography, written by Andrew Peyton Thomas, who is not related. But this is the definitive biography that exists at this time about the Supreme Court Justice, Clarence Thomas, who has been on the bench since 1991. This covers everything as far as his life is concerned, and even covers the lives of his ancestors. The first part of the book has a lot to do with that, and them living as slaves, and you get a sense of how cruel and brutal their lives were. But this book here covers everything you would want to know about him, every little detail, every emotion, his reactions to different circumstances. It talks about his going to college, his getting into law and making his way up, and then eventually the being appointed to the Supreme Court by George H.W. Bush, and the intense and controversial hearings that had to do with the allegations that Anita Hill made against him, and how there was a lot to that. And this also does a great job covering cases that he oversaw up until this book was published in 2001. It even touches upon his response to Bush v. Gore pertaining to the 2000 election. Something that's incredible about this book is that it does a great job providing you, the reader, with great detail as to how Clarence Thomas thinks and why he thinks the way that he does. And I think the absolute best part is that a book like this allows the reader to make their own judgment based on the information that's presented. And I think that when it comes to a biography, those are the best, is when it's not trying to approach it from a particular train of thought, but instead just lays out the information, and then you, the reader, make the judgment as to what, based on the information, how do you see things? And I think that an objective biography should be just like that. And I think that this does its very best to be as objective as possible. And we'll have to see if there are more biographies that come out about Clarence Thomas, and more on other Supreme Court justices, because you'll get some about particular justices, but there's some that you can't really even find. But I think that you will probably see more, because Clarence Thomas is a very memorable justice, controversial to the left, loved by the right, But I'm really glad that I got to this. This is something that I had wanted to read for quite some time, and I'm glad that I did. I was really immersed. Here are my 5 favorite books that I read in 2022. And I want to thank you for tuning into this video and for supporting this channel. Me and all of the contributors that are on this channel. We really enjoy doing this, and we want to keep doing this as long as we are able. And supporting us on Patreon would really help us continue to provide you with great content. But you got to do what works for you. I want to thank you all, and I hope you have a great, a happy, a healthy, a safe, a prosperous 2023. I know that we have a lot in store, and we hope to continue to fulfill you with everything that you would be looking for on this channel. For now, and as always, I encourage you to keep reading.